Hi, I'm Mrs. D Math. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to go over two-step equations and combining like terms in 7th grade math. So let's go ahead and get started. So sometimes you will have several terms that can be combined in order to simplify the problem before you solve. This is called combining like terms. You can only combine terms that have the same variable raised to the same power. So for instance, if I have an x, I can only combine that, whether I'm adding or subtracting, with another x. So it could be two x's, it could be a 3x, 5x, and another 6x. It could be any combination of the same variable. Again, I can also combine x squared with another x squared, but I can't combine an x squared and an x. That will not work. Okay, so it's got to be the same variable raised to the same power. That means I also cannot combine an x with a y or an a. So I have to be careful and make sure that it has the exact same variable. And the only thing I'm combining are technically the coefficients. Those coefficients are the number, again, that is multiplying by the variable. So let's go ahead here and look at a couple of practice problems. So in this problem, it's just an expression. I don't have an equal sign, so it's not an equation, but I can still combine certain things to simplify this. So I have 3x plus 5x minus 9 plus 7x. Now, in order to make things easier to visualize, I like to actually group things with symbols. So in this case, anything that has an x, I'm going to underline it, and anything that does not have an x, I'm going to circle it. So I can see here that I have three numbers or terms that have an x with them. I can go ahead and put those together to make a big X. So if I have 3 x's and I add 5 x's, I now have 8 x's. And then I want to combine that 8x with 7x. So now I have 15x. And then my minus 9 doesn't have any other circled numbers, so I'm just going to keep that with the expression here. So now my expression has gone from 4 terms, and each term, by the way, is separated by a plus or minus sign. So I have 4 terms to begin with, and I have just reduced that problem to 2 terms. So this is going to essentially simplify the problem so that it makes it easier to solve. Let's try another one. So in this case, I have a 3, a minus 2y, a plus 8y, and a minus 7. Now, be careful. If you noticed, the sign goes with the number that is behind it. So when I say minus 9, I had to bring down a minus 9. When I combined all my x's in the first one, they were all positive, so I ended up adding them all together. So in this case, now I have a negative 2y plus 8y. Well, negative 2 plus 8 equals 6y. And then I can also combine my 3 minus 7. Well, a positive 3 and a negative 7 makes minus 4. So now I have gone ahead and simplified another problem from 4 terms down to 2 terms. And this is much easier to work with when I have 6y minus 4. And you may have noticed in both problems when I did simplify it, I went ahead and left the variable as the first term, and then the second term is going to be my constant. So just to make things easier for you as you get into higher level algebra problems, make sure that you start getting the habit of writing your variable term first. So now we're going to combine this combining like terms and solving two-step equations. So our first step is going to be to combine any like terms that we have in the problem. This is going to simplify the problem for us. Second, we're going to isolate the variable by solving with the inverse operations. And remember, whatever we do to one side of the equation, we have to do to the other. And then last, we're going to solve for that variable. And then 4, we're going to check our answers with substitution. So let's do a practice problem. So in this case, I have my equation So this is where it splits here. This is going to keep the left side balanced with the right side. And I need to look for any like terms. And in this case, I have a 12y, a negative 8y, I have an 18, and a negative 6. Now, before we get ahead of ourselves, in the last part where we had just expressions, there was no equal sign, so we could go ahead and combine our constants. But in this case, our constants are on opposite sides of that equal sign, which means I cannot do 18 minus 6 in order to solve this right now. So I'm not worried about my constants. I'm worried about any like terms on one side of my equation. So in this case, the left side. So I'm going to combine 12y minus 8y, which equals 4y. And then I have plus 18 equals negative 6. Now, if you hadn't done that before, if you would have gone ahead and subtracted your 18 from both sides, then you would have had to divide by negative 8 and then also divide by 12. It's just much easier to combine those into one term. So now I'm only going to have one step to do after I get this 18 to the other side. So first thing I'm going to do is zero out my 18 by doing the opposite. So I'm going to subtract 18. Whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So now 4y equals negative 6 minus 18, which equals a negative 24. So now I have negative 24, and I want to divide that into 4 groups. So y equals negative 6. And if you saw the last video, you can bet we're going to check our answer. So let's go ahead and check this answer. So in order to do that, all I need to do is rewrite the original problem. But instead of putting a y, I'm going to put a negative 6 because that's what I just decided that y equals. Okay, this one's a little bit longer problem, and the reason I'm going to go ahead and plug in my negative 6 to the original equation to both y's is just in case I made a mistake here with my combining like terms. So once I have my equation written out with my negative 6 substituted for the y, I'm going to go ahead and solve the problem to make sure it does indeed equal a negative 6. So now 12 times negative 6 is negative 72. And then a negative 8 times negative 6 is going to give me a positive 48 plus 18. So now I just need to continue solving. So 48 plus 18 is going to give me 66. And a negative 72 plus 66 equals negative 6. So this checks out. So again, if you missed the last video going over solving two-step equations, you may want to go back and watch that. But this incorporates combining like terms with a two-step equation. So it's just one extra step in order to simplify your problem first. But remember, checking your problem should only take you maybe 45 seconds to a minute. So it's definitely worth your time to make sure that you have the correct answer. Thank you for joining me today. I hope that these examples help you out a little bit more in understanding how to combine like terms. My name is Mrs.D. Math. This has been two-step equations and combining like terms in 7th grade math. I hope you have a great day. Bye.